Hi guys, hope you're doing well. We're going to be continuing our Bible study. We're in the Gospel of John. We're still in the first chapter, so this is part 2. We're starting in verse 35 and we'll finish out. And there's only 51 verses in it, so we'll just finish this out real quick. And again, I hope you like this. I hope it's been a blessing to you. If it is, this is just a really good book, I think, for anybody, fundamentals reading for any one of us. All the gospel accounts are, but for all of us Christians. But John holds a special place in many Christians' hearts, and it's touched so many people. So it's a really special gospel account. But anyway, if you like what this studies and you like what I'm doing, just please like, subscribe, share it with other people. If you have any questions or if you want to drop me a line or anything, just put it in the comments, and I'll certainly try to respond in a timely manner. Otherwise, let's go ahead and jump into it. It says, verse 35. Again, the next day, John was standing with 2 of his disciples, and he looked at Jesus. He was walking, and he said, "Behold, the Lamb of God." The 2 disciples heard him speak, and they followed Jesus. And Jesus turned and saw them following, and said to them, What do you seek?" They said to him, "Rabbi," which translates means teacher, "where are you staying?" And he said to them, "Come, and you will see." So they came and saw where he was staying, and they stayed with him that day, for it was about the 10th hour. One of the 2 who heard John speak and followed them was Andrew, Simon Peter's brother. He found first his own brother Simon and said to him, "We have found the Messiah," which translates means Christ. Amazing that he already knew he was the Messiah, and I think a lot of that was the fact that he was in such close connection to John the Baptist. John the Baptist was probably telling him a lot about it, and here he is. And that's John the Baptist was probably saying, "Here's the Christ. This is the guy," and he's going off of that. Anyway, he says, verse 42, he says, he brought him to Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, "You are Simon, the son of John. You shall be called Cephas," which is translated Peter. The next day, he proposed to go into Galilee, and he found Philip. And Jesus said to him, "Follow me." Now, Philip was from Bethsaida, of the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him who Moses in the law and also in the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." Amazing that these people seem to already know a lot about Jesus and believed in him. So my guess is a lot of people, there's been a lot of talk about him and a lot of things were happening, and they had already discovered some very supernatural special things about him, qualities that would say, this is the Christ. I mean, the average Jew would not sit there and go, "This is the Christ, the Son of God, the one who's going to take away the sins of the world and redeem mankind and throw off the chains of, Rome." You wouldn't, the average Jew wouldn't think like that unless you had some kind of real special qualities or something about you. And it's very significant that these people right away recognized it. Anyway, Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." So Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him and said to him, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no deceit." Apparently, Nathanael had this quality about him that he'd tell you what was straight on his mind, and there was no guile or anything like that about him. He was like, hey, he'd just tell you straightforward, and that was one of the things he'd tell you what he thought. That's very respectful. And Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" And Jesus answered and said to him, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." Now, again, most people look at this and go, "What's the big deal? He knew he was on a fig tree." Well, yeah, but again, back then, there was no video cameras, there's no phones, cell phones, there's no way where he was at, he would know where Nathanael was at. And apparently Nathanael must have been sitting under a fig tree and whatever he was doing, reading or whatever he was just contemplating. But the fact that Jesus knew where he was, when Nathanael absolutely knew, there's no way he should know that, because Nathanael's traveling with Philip. So it wasn't like Philip went back and told Jesus, "Oh, I saw him standing under the fig tree." And they come back, and apparently he came back with him. And he's like, "How'd you know I was under the fig tree?" And then obviously Nathanael gives his great answer. Nathanael answered him and said, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus answered and said to him, "Because I said to you, I saw you under a fig tree, do you believe? You will see greater things than these." And like I said, here's a guy who had no deceit. He was no flatterer, type of guy. He was straightforward about what he believed. And then Christ had already pointed that out about his character. That's a very admirable trait. And he says, and he said to him, "Truly, truly, I say to you, you will see the heavens open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. And again, that reference immediately, right from the very beginning, Son of Man, which goes back to the book of Daniel. And the book of Daniel is where we'll go there, Daniel 7, 13 and 14. Let's look at that real quick, where Daniel says, get over here real quick, Daniel 7, there we go, 13 and 14. Great prophecy where it talks about, Jesus Christ coming, and, it's a prophecy which we as Christians believe is alluding to Jesus Christ. He's the only one that makes that title claim of the Son of Man. There's really been no other Jews that have done that I know of, and there's none that's, fulfilled the things that Jesus has fulfilled. So anyway, he says, I kept, quoting from Daniel 7, 13 and 14. He says, I kept looking in the night vision, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, one like the Son of Man was coming. And he came up to the Ancient of Days, and he was presented before him. And to him was given dominion, glory, and a kingdom, that all the peoples, nations, and men, every language might serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which will not pass away, and his kingdom is one which will not be destroyed. Again, going back to Isaiah 9:7, where it talks about this one who's going to come, and he's going to have an eternal kingdom. We call him Mighty God, Everlasting Father, things like that, Wonderful Counselor, all those things, Prince of Peace. All these titles we give him, these names that we give him, going back to Christmas and all the stuff that we learned as we're early Christian, when we were young Christians, all this comes out of Scripture. And when we're going to hear him, repeatedly say Son of Man, now you know what he's referencing. So when he's talking about the Son of Man, it's a title to deity, and just like he's saying here he is, he's presented to the Ancient of Days. He's pre-existing, and he's the creation of the world, and he's being presented to the Ancient of Days, and he's going to have this eternal kingdom, referencing exactly Isaiah 9:7, which goes on to say, by the way, Isaiah 9:7, which is what this is quoting, is going to be the where it talks about him being God. And it clearly says that he's God. So we got time, we'll go ahead and look at it real quick. So Isaiah, let's jump over here real quick. Isaiah chapter 9. And it says, you can do 6 and 7 actually. For a child is born to us, a son has been given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. There will be no end to the increase of his government or of his peace on the throne of David over his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it with justice and righteousness from then on and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will accomplish this. And again, this is going back to what we would see in Revelation chapter 19, 11, all the way through chapter 22 through 21, where we see the reign of Jesus Christ and his establishment, his return, his establishment of his kingdom, his messianic age. Then Satan's released for a period of time, and then he defeats Satan, and then he has the eternal kingdom after that. All of that is what this is encompassing and foretelling. And again, it's referencing back ultimately, Daniel's referencing back to this point, really, that this is the same one. And as a Jew, you couldn't believe that a child is going to be born and become God, and that you would call him Mighty God, Wonderful Counselor. I mean, that's almost blasphemous that a God could be born, but here it's clearly saying that a child is going to be born. It's going to be incarnate God himself, who's going to become and establish his eternal kingdom and government here on earth. Well, I thought God was a spirit. Well, here he is clearly saying he's going to take on personhood, a person. And again, that falls in line perfectly with what Christianity teaches and how we see what the apostles taught as it goes through in the gospel accounts. Whereas the Jew reads this, and they certainly have to try to allegorize where it's talking about the son as the nation of Israel, and things like that. They try to discredit it as being a person born into the embodiment of God, and because obviously now you've stepped over into Christianity, and which by the way was founded by Jews, by the way. So it's Christianity is in fact a Jewish faith. It was founded by Jews, and ultimately it was to be revealed to all the nations. That's what Isaiah is all about, is this mystery that was going to come, that the Messiah was going to call all the nations into one people, going back to Hosea, where Hosea talks about and alludes to, I don't know if we have time, but we'll look at it real quick. Hosea kind of prophesies that God was going to call all these people to become his that weren't a people to be his people. That's you and I as Christians. We're going to become his new people, a chosen people, a chosen race. And he says, Hosea 1 chapter 1 verses 10, he says, yet to the number of sons of Israel will be like the sands of the sea, which cannot be measured. And in the place where he said to them, you are not my people, it will be said that to them, you are the sons of the living God. Again, going back to being adopted children of God. And some people say, well, he's only talking about the nation of Israel, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And again, Isaiah talks about this again in chapter 2, verses 23, where he says, and I will sow for myself in the land, and I will have compassion on her who will not obtain compassion. And I will say to those who are not my people, you are my people. And they will say, you are my God. Again, referencing back to what Paul, the apostle, talks about in Romans chapter 9, verses 5, where he references this very verse and the fact that he's saying that we are that group of people that weren't his people. And now we're called his people. And he's called each one of us Christians, be it Jew or Gentile, to become his child and adopted in. That's why this whole Hosea, the previous church verse where it talks about that we just read, where we become sons of the living God, we're adopted in as his children. And then in the very next chapter in Hosea 23, here he's saying that, here we are, and we're going to be his people who weren't his people before. Jews can't say they weren't his people before. They clearly were. But here the Gentiles can say that, and here we are. So it was a direct fulfillment of becoming adopted children, adopted into the nation of Israel, as it were, into that covenant, and then brought in under Christ to be his people. It's quite beautiful. And then again, you can pick this up as you go through the epistles and the writings, but quite beautiful, how God fashioned it all together so they could break down the barriers that was there before, and that you'd have this specific race, the Jewish people who God chose. Okay, they fulfilled that calling, what they were supposed to do through Christ, and Christ was the one who fulfilled it. And then now it's time for him to merge all people together under him, and he would be the God that encompasses the whole world, the all in all, for everyone, both Jew and Gentile. And there would no longer be this barrier that existed. Although we still throw up barriers. The Jews throw up barriers and say, no, we're the chosen people, you can't be any part of Israel. And then you often have people sometimes in the church say, hey, you're Jewish, you can't be in here, because they read it completely wrong. Not too many Christians say that, by the way, but there's always a few weird sects that do something like that. The exotic ones, you had the Nazis and so forth, but they believed in Arianism and that kind of stuff. But anyway, I hope you like this. We're going to pick it up next time in chapter 2. Hope you're enjoying this. God bless. Be safe. Keep looking up. And I'll see you next time.